Whoa, that was interesting. Good evening, everyone. My name is Monica Johnson, and I'm the Deputy General Manager for Strategic Partnerships at WSSC. So on behalf of our General Manager and the entire agency, I want to thank you for coming out to tonight's meeting. This is a significant project. It impacts a number of people in the community, and we are very, very happy that you're engaged and that you're here. Before I turn the meeting over to Crystal and the project team, I just wanted to set some context for this meeting and explain our rationale for being here tonight. We've heard from you that it's extremely important to you that we provide open and transparent communication throughout the entire process, and we're committed to doing that. And this meeting is part and parcel to our commitment to doing that. So we're interested in hearing from the entire community, everyone that's engaged or impacted by the project. And we are committed to making sure that you are all informed as to what our next steps are, our thinking behind the project, and where we're going to go from here. As part of the meeting, we will be presenting you with our final, with the final alignment, and let you know where our thinking is on some of the alternative methods for moving forward. So with that, I'll turn the meeting over to Crystal and the project team. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Monica. So there are some handouts that I had at the front. The questions on that handout, they come from the field walk that we had last Tuesday. The council member, he had sent me a list of questions that people still had following that field walk. And also there are some questions that came from the residents with the group that I mentioned on the worksheet. So I have some questions there that are answered. You can use it to take notes during the presentation. I'll be taking questions at the end of this presentation. The whole presentation is going to be filmed and recorded for viewing live now and also later on to do a download online. And there are some microphones. There are 2 microphones here. However, the cameras won't be able to turn towards you until after the presentation. So if you have questions throughout the presentation, just note down your questions. I have numbers on the slides, so you can write down the slide number if you want me to go back to something later on. Okay? So yeah, please hold your questions until the end. So I'm going to get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Crystal Whedon. I am the project manager with WSSC for the Tacoma Park Water and Sewer Main Replacement Project along Eastern Avenue. Here with me, I have a couple members of the WSSC team as well as the design team and the City of Tacoma Park. So I have Paul Gray. He's over there. He's our right-of-way manager. Ayoka Blandford from our communications office. Brandon Stewart, he is your customer advocate. And I have Doug Sievers, who is our urban forester. And from the Wilson T. Ballard Company, oh gosh, Jeff, I'm going to mess up your last name. I have Jeff Ziegenfuss, John Martin, and Matt DeWeese. And then Daryl's here somewhere. I just saw her. Yeah, okay, and Daryl's here. So for the agenda for the meeting, I'm going to go over the project background, how we got to this point. I'm going to present the final alignment solution for addresses 6601 through 6761 Eastern Avenue. 6761. There's a big board over there, so you can see the photo of the final alignment throughout the entire presentation as your reference point. Then I'm going to go over the environmental impacts of the final solution, and I'm going to go over what would happen if we do a no-build alternative, and then I'm going to discuss the next steps in the design and construction process. So here on the screen, you'll see the project area itself. The project is between 2nd Avenue and Walnut Avenue. The houses along Eastern Avenue, they currently have existing water and sewer mains in their backyard alignment. The existing sewer and water mains, they basically are on the property line, directly on the property line dividing Westmoreland and Eastern Avenue. And these mains were installed in the 1920s. They're aging and they're ready for repair. And currently, all of the houses along Eastern Avenue, they have their existing water and sewer house connections coming from that main line to the back of their homes. And as you may see on the slide, there are a few houses along Westmoreland that also have water house connections to that existing water line. So we have some photos from a CCTV that was done 2 weeks ago that showed the existing condition of the sewer that's out there right now. So I'm just going to show you some pictures of the common problems that we see in the pipe right now. There are some circumferential cracks in the main. It's 2 different instances here, but there are many. There have been some repair patches done over the years. Obviously, it's 100 years old, and so there have been some repair patches, but those repair patches are failing because of tree rooting going through the patches. And here you'll see cases of broken pipe. There are actually 4 different breaks along the main that we were able to take pictures of 2 weeks ago. But as you'll see later on, we weren't able to video the entire line because of some blockages. So there are some house connections that are protruding into the main line. So you'll see 2 examples there, and there are others. And we also have some areas of separated joints in the sewer main. And in that last picture on the right, we weren't able to continue the survey or the video of the line because the offset was so great that we couldn't even pass through the pipeline. And there are other cases where we weren't able to go straight through the pipeline. So obviously with the age of the pipe and the existing photos that we have of the main here in 2016, the pipe is ready to be replaced. And we've also been trying to replace the water mains. They've also were installed in the 1920s. And so for this final alignment solution, we are replacing the water mains into the front yards of all homes along Eastern Avenue. And for the sewer mains, after multiple rounds of voting, of 2 rounds of voting, and multiple alignment considerations, we came to this final alignment after the March 2016 vote. For homes at 6601 to 6613 Eastern Avenue, the homeowners voted unanimously for the grinder pump solution. So that's a pressure sewer in the front yard, draining towards 2nd Avenue. And for the other homes, we are moving forward with the backyard alignment, a gravity sewer main that will drain towards 1st Avenue. So, yeah, just to summarize what we're doing at each of the different sewer blocks. For 6601 through 6613 Eastern Avenue, we're replacing the water main in the roadway. We're going to have a low-pressure sewer in the roadway with grinder pumps for these homes. WSSC is paying for a 10-year extended warranty on top of the manufacturer's 2-year warranty for the grinder pumps. And long-term maintenance is going to be the responsibility of the homeowner for those grinder pumps. For the other homes, we're having the water main alignment in the roadway, and we are installing the gravity sewer in the backyard. And for each of these properties, the homeowner will grant a 20-foot easement to WSSC at the rear of their properties. We must have a signed agreement for the easements from all of these homeowners in order to move forward with this backyard alignment. And as I mentioned before, there are some homes along Westmoreland Avenue that currently have water connections to that existing water line in the backyard. So when we move that water main to the front roadway, these 6 homes on Westmoreland Avenue will be receiving new water house connections to Westmoreland Avenue. Okay, so I have some pictures of the construction methods that we can expect for the water and the pressure sewer alignments in the front roadway. You can expect to see open trenches, shallow trenches, in the roadway alignment, such as this picture. And for the water house connections and the low pressure sewer house connections, we'll be installing the house connections via a bullet system, so it's a trenchless method. So you will see pits at the main line and then also on the property, smaller pits, maybe 3 foot by 3 foot, as we push the pipe trenchlessly up to the property. And some properties you'll see multiple pits of this size because of bends to get around the houses. Okay. Along the roadway, obviously people park there now, and so if WSSC needs to come in and complete work in front of where you would normally park, you'll see these signs You'll see signs such as this that say no parking for this week or for however long the construction crew will be at that section of the neighborhood. And you'll be given at least a week's notice before we have to come in, and you'll have to move your car to a different parking space or situation for that week. Okay. Okay. For the backyard gravity sewer, the gravity main is going to be pretty deep. It's going to be up to 17 feet deep, I believe, 15, 17 feet deep. And so what you'll see in the backyard is much deeper trenches than what you see in the roadway. An example of what those trenches look like is here in this picture. And this will be within the 20-foot easement that the homeowners are granting to WSSC. Okay. And then after construction is complete, the examples of restoration that you'll see in the roadway are here. After a day's work, the crew will either have metal plates or they'll have a temporary patch. And then after construction is completely done, they'll have a more permanent patch, as you see in the picture on the right, before we come in and do a mill and overlay when the entire project is done. And for the backyard alignment, we will fill those open trenches and we will replant grass on top of that 20-foot easement. Okay. So the environmental impacts of our project. Currently, for that backyard alignment and that 20-foot easement, WSSC will require clear cutting of the trees within that 20-foot easement to allow access of vehicles for construction. And then later on down the road, if maintenance needs to be done, we will always have that clear pathway for our maintenance crews to come in. The estimated number of trees right now to be removed along the Eastern Avenue backyards is 32 trees. And the estimated number of trees to be removed on Westmoreland Avenue at that property line is 7. The estimated number of trees to be removed on Eastern Avenue, the roadway for those new water and sewer house connections, is 7. I will say these are estimated numbers, and we'll have the final count after we get the 100% plans in, and our urban forester is able to review those plans along with Tall Bolton from the City of Tacoma Park to determine which trees need to be removed versus which ones will be impacted but won't need to be removed. So for the trees that don't need to be removed, but they will be impacted by the weight of construction vehicles or just root pruning at that trench, WSSC is going to present a 5-year tree protection plan for those trees, where every year we'll come in and we'll do protection maintenance to prevent disease for the trees. If for some reason, if within that 5-year protection after construction we see that a tree is in bad health, we will remove the tree at no expense to the homeowner. Oh yeah, so in general, all the trees that are removed will be removed at no expense to the homeowner. And currently, I say stormwater impacts are being reviewed, but on the first review by Doug Sievers and also Todd Bolton and also our design consultant, Wilson T. Ballard, we do not see a change in the amount of stormwater from what you have now. Okay, homeowner reimbursement. So for that 20-foot easement, WSSC will be paying the homeowners a market value for that 20-foot easement. And that easement value includes the contributory value for the trees that are being removed within that easement. And then for the trees that are being impacted on Westmoreland Avenue, WSSC is going to be providing a temporary construction easement to those homeowners. Because we won't need to keep that easement from you after construction is completed. However, we will pay you for the impacts that are happening to your trees at that property line. We're paying for the additional 10-year warranty for the grinder pumps on top of the 2-year manufacturer warranty. And then we're also giving, as standard, a 2-year warranty for all new water and sewer house connections. All right, so here, so now I'm going to go into a little bit of the no-build alternative. So here are some more pictures from the CCTV that we received 2 weeks ago. Just more pictures of the broken pipe that exists now. If we don't go in and complete this replacement in a timely manner, then there is a chance of an emergency break happening out there in those backyards along Eastern Avenue. And an emergency break, it will cause sewage to collect on whichever Eastern Avenue property that break happens on. And then also that sewage, it will collect on that property and it will also travel downhill to the Westmoreland properties that are behind it. And any emergency break will require immediate access by WSSC to come in, and we will have to remove any trees, any landscaping, or any structures that are there in order for us to repair that failure of the sewer main. Okay, so the next steps for us in this design process, Wilson C. Ballard is going to be completing 100% design plans in August, and I mentioned here a consultant field walk because they will have to come and visit all of the Eastern Avenue properties to do a walkthrough. There are some final points on the plans that they need to edit, and they need to look at the properties one more time as they finalize their plans. After that, we will have a 4-week review by a WSSC internal team, and also we're submitting the plans for review to the City of Tacoma Park, along with the tree permit application and our tree protection plan for any trees that we see as possibly being impacted by the project. In the next month, well, by the end of this month, we will have the appraisal results sent out to the homeowners of 6617 through 6705 Eastern Avenue. These were the homeowners who voted for the backyard alignment back in 2015. Actually, those were mailed out yesterday, so you should be receiving them tomorrow, hopefully tomorrow, by the end of the week for sure. And then we'll also be delivering out the right of entry paperwork to all the homeowners along Eastern Avenue and the 6 homeowners on Westmoreland who will need that new water house connection, because we need a right of entry to install all the new water house connections. And finally, we'll conduct the easement appraisal for 6711 through 6761 Eastern Avenue, and also we'll have to do the easement appraisal for the temporary easements along Westmoreland Avenue. So those are our next steps, and I have a timeline on the next slide. Oh man. If only this will cooperate with me. Let's see. And, oh, I guess. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so I have the public meeting today at the top. The next steps after this meeting, delivering the completed appraisal results by August. Again, those results should be done by the end of, should be to you by the end of the week. And then the right of entry documents, I'll have them out in the beginning of August for homeowner review. And we're going to conduct the outstanding appraisals, including those temporary easements along Westmoreland, by October 2016. We're going to complete the final designs by the end of August and have WSSC and City Review completed in the following month. And with all of this going on, hopefully we'll obtain all of the homeowner permissions. That includes the agreed upon easement documents and temporary easement documents and the signed right of entry forms by November 2016. And I show that in red as the critical path for us to move forward to procuring a contractor to complete the work. And then we'll have the construction phase in spring 2017 to spring 2018, pending us obtaining the homeowner permissions by November. So that's the end of my presentation. And so now I'm going to open it up for questions. And there are 2 microphones. If you have any questions, please go to either one. And yeah, you're going to turn those on. And the camera will follow you as you ask your questions.
Which are the 7 trees that have been identified for removal, and when was that decision made? Last Tuesday, when we met with you, you represented that you didn't yet know the final location of the trench, so you couldn't tell us which trees would have to be removed.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm basing this number on having the trench directly in the middle of our 20-foot easement, and Doug Severs actually came up with this preliminary number. I put removal because that would be the worst case scenario for these trees. Most of them, he identified that they would need that 5-year protection plan that I mentioned, but I just presented it mainly because of slide space, but I presented it as the worst case scenario that we would be removing those 7. I don't know if Doug has the list with him right now. Do you have it, Liz?
The list, but it's basically the trees that are within, so close to the property line.
Right. Okay.
Work around them.
Can you all hear him? No. Okay, Doug, can you come up and say it? I'm sorry. We're working with one microphone.
I don't have the exact list with addresses and which trees on each lot, but they were basically the trees that were really close to the back property line were the ones that were going to get removed. I think the biggest one was like a 30-inch. There was one specimen white oak that's right on the property line, almost. But that's the biggest tree that's going to get removed. The rest were, like 15-inch and less, I think, diameter.
And what steps have been taken to investigate boring to save those trees?
Okay. So WSSC, we have investigated boring, and it is a plausible method for both block 2 and block 1. Oh, I guess you guys don't know the blocks. For both 6621 through 6637, and also 6701 through 6761. So it's feasible for the entire alignment where we're proposing the backyard alignment. But right now, WSSC, we're evaluating the different methods because we have completed a cost comparison for jack and bore versus open cut along the entire stretch, and it's going to cost us at least twice as much money to move forward with that. But we need to. It's going to be a business decision by WSSC of okay, how many trees are we actually going to be able to save? We're going to consider the cost. We're going to consider even just the feasibility because for 6701 through 6761, we're still going to need to have 4 different pits. Larger pits in order to have a jack and bore be plausible. So we're still going to be impacting a lot of trees. We're going to probably need an extra temporary construction easement just to get around. Just for our vehicles to maneuver back and forth and do those tie-ins with the jack and bore. So really, so we're going to be reviewing whether or not this is going to be the best decision for us as far as, cost, just feasibility, environmental impacts. We're going to have to take everything into consideration, but we haven't made a decision yet about which method we'd go with. It's really going to be an upper management call. So like Monica and the other people at her level, and even Carla Reed, we're going to have her be involved in the decision-making process for it. So.
Hi, my name is Kit Gage. Can you hear me? I'm president of Friends of Sligo Creek. Friends of Sligo Creek is an intervening group in the WSSC sewer replacement project. I'm very familiar overall with the nature of this project as I've followed it closely over the last few years. And I've worked collaboratively with WSSC to try to minimize the environmental impacts, especially in the Sligo Creek Park area. I'm glad that you've taken this issue that's been raised by so many people here seriously to try to minimize the environmental damage. I'm concerned at the number of trees that are being removed, but I'm particularly surprised that you're not talking about replacement trees. I've got a lot of experience working with the county, in particular, actually, it's 2 counties in the district on stormwater management issues. And trees are not at all irrelevant to stormwater impacts. In fact, they're incredibly useful in helping to reduce the impact of stormwater. So I would expect in this kind of project that there would be replacement trees to replace every single significant tree, not significant, every single tree more than a 2-inch size that gets cut down just because of their extraordinary impact overall and over the long term. Thank you.
Yeah, so actually we will be, the city of Tacoma Park will be replanting trees for every tree that we remove. And for the larger diameter trees, there are going to be multiple trees replanted. So what WSSC will do is that we will pay a fee for every tree that needs to be replanted, and we're going to be putting that money into the Tacoma Park tree planting fund. And then I guess Todd Bolton will decide where those trees are actually going to be planted, whether they would be planted somewhere in these people's backyards or just somewhere else in the city of Tacoma Park. But we are aware of that, and part of the tree application process is identifying, okay, how many trees are we removing, what are the sizes of these trees, and how many are we replanting in place of these trees that we're removing. So,
Hi,
is that okay?
I'm Anne Marie Gemmel. I live on Westmoreland Avenue. I have utmost respect for the two arborists' skills as arborists, but I'm not willing to accept their word that there won't be any stormwater impact. It takes a whole other set of skills to assess that. And it seems like the plan is going ahead without a genuine environmental impact study of the aquifer and the engineering that's going to need to be done to avoid damage to that. There's so many of us on Westmoreland Avenue who have invested a lot in trying to keep our basements dry. And I don't mean any disrespect at all to the two arborists, but I don't think it's their job to assess that.
Okay. I've gotten that question a lot about the stormwater impacts and even whether WSSC would be improving, like how would we be improving the stormwater system that exists now in the neighborhood. And I just want to clarify that like the stormwater system that exists now, it is under the delegation of the city of Tacoma Park. WSSC, we're responsible for maintaining our public sewer and water systems. And what we're doing here is we are rehabilitating what is existing out there. And we certainly wouldn't be taking many measures to improve or change the stormwater system out there because that's not under our jurisdiction. And then when we submit those plans to the city of Tacoma Park, they can give us feedback about our impacts as far as the stormwater. But as I said before, Doug and Todd, they've both looked at the project area, they've walked it, and in their many words, they've summarized that they don't see that there's going to be much of a difference in the stormwater runoff that you see now when we go out and we replant, or we plant that grass out there in that 20-foot easement. There's a lot of science behind RCNs, runoff curve numbers. Even I don't understand it. And Doug, you can take the mic if you want. But I see that that's a major concern for you all, and I will have Wilson T. Ballard, whether they have a person on staff who is an environmentalist or an environmental analyst, they can complete an actual analysis and provide a report for you guys to show what the conditions would be like before and after construction. And if we need to get an outside consultant to do that, we can. Oh, yeah, we will. Well, sure. I'm going to have a report. At this point, if you don't trust the words of your own arborist, I need. It's
not a hydrologist.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I can have an analysis done of the before and after. Yeah, yeah. Right.
Moving along, let's let Crystal take the question.
Sure, yeah.
I have a question.
Actually, no, you were here first.
Hi, my name's Anna Baldwin, and I'm a resident on Eastern. And I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say I appreciate everything that WSSC is doing to, it's an extraordinarily complex project, and, the interest of the folks on Eastern Avenue to make sure that we have working sewers. And, it's been a long process, and we certainly are concerned about the environmental impacts for our neighbors on Westmoreland and appreciate you taking those seriously, and at the same time, for the good of the entire neighborhood, appreciate everything you're doing to keep the project moving along, because wet basements aren't good for anybody, and neither is raw sewage in anybody's basement. And, you know, we're just concerned about the longer that things go on, the more degradation to the sewer. So thank you for all of your efforts.
Thanks. I don't know who was here first.
Me.
But we can go back and forth.
Hi, my name's Gresham Lowe. I'm a member of the Tree Commission, and I'm also a contractor and landscape designer of 35 years, so I'm a little more familiar with this type of work. I have a real general question. Has the option for grinder pumps been dropped completely for bringing the sewer line to the street also?
For the homeowners from 6617 to 6761. I'm sorry, guys, so many sixes. 6761 Eastern Avenue. Yes, we're not going back to the grinder pump option. We've had years of exploring that option, and we've already had the 2 rounds of voting with these homeowners. They understood the terms of the grinder pumps versus the backyard alignment for gravity, and so we're not going to.
You know, I didn't see
Go
that
backwards.
on people's faces when we were doing the walkthrough last week. I saw not a clear understanding of the extent of this disruption. And there have been various emails about it, and I just wanted to clarify. See, WSSC is saying we've tried and we're not doing that, because even at this 11th hour, I feel like a lot of really good information has come up, and people should have the opportunity to be asked one more time. Personally, I think it's easier.
No, we're done.
Those people in the sewer block on Little Eastern, we are deeply concerned about grinder pumps. We think the best option for, you know, the neighborhood is going to be just like a normal public utility.
It's not a consensus with everybody. There are people on the block that would prefer to have grinder pumps.
You should go to the mic, because you're not being
That,
recorded.
what I'm hearing, I don't hear a consensus through Westmoreland and Little Eastern, and
But in terms of the folks who actually have the easements on Little Eastern, and those are the folks who are being asked to give up their public utility like everybody else in the city of Tacoma Park has, and have essentially a private, dependent upon electricity system. The homeowners who are affected on Little Eastern have talked about that extensively, and in those sewer blocks, I don't know if the vote was unanimous or overwhelming, but it was
Not unanimous.
it was a very strong vote among the folks in
Wasn't there a line?
Right. Okay. Yeah. So we did have voting. There was a unanimous vote from 6621 to 6705 Eastern Avenue. There was a unanimous vote back in 2015 from those homeowners, and then in 2016, March 2016, I received a majority vote for the backyard alignment. I mean, there were 2 homeowners who, well, one who expressed a want for a grinder pump, and then one who sent me a vote for neither. However, I did explain on those voting forms that a vote for neither
oh no, I understand
would
that.
be for a backyard alignment, because that's where the existing sewer is.
I'm
at the
asking
moment.
because at the walkthrough last week, I felt that I was still observing a lot of confusion. This is hugely disruptive, and I don't for a moment personally believe that stormwater mitigation is going to be addressed properly with grass replacement. And so that's
Keep that
So-
clear cut is what I'm understanding we have to do for 20 feet, which is going to change the stormwater in perpetuity.
so I didn't know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have an analysis done
my
to see
understanding
exactly how
of
it's
reading
impacted.
things
But
was-
I mean, as far as the field walk, I mostly saw the Westmoreland residents there, and a lot of them, of course, they may have had the looks of confusion because they hadn't been involved in the voting process, and I mean,
The deal breaker with the grinder pumps for us, because we've been at this for a while, is that WSSC refused to take responsibility for maintaining the grinder pumps, which would mean that we would have to take out a maintenance contract. They would do it for 10 years, but after that it would cost approximately $300 a year for us to have the same access to sewage that everybody else has. And that was the deal breaker. We might have, you know, there were other things that people didn't like, but that was the deal breaker. If WSSC had found a way to take ownership of the pumps and maintenance of the pumps, we might have been able to move forward on that, but that's what killed it.
WSSC could have done it much cheaper than that, and actually doing, the jack solution, some of the other things would actually overwhelm, be much more expensive than for them to take on the maintenance of that over 10 years.
Well, I just have to comment, if I were a homeowner, I would be happily paying $300
And we gave the
year
homeowners
versus
the opportunity to vote
extreme disruption
twice.
that's going to go on in the long term.
I mean,
The
I
anchor
understand.
roots of the trees more on the Westmoreland side are going to have to be root pruned as you do your trenches, and all it takes is one storm for those to just blow over. I had that happen in my own yard when I had the connector line from Sycamore Avenue to Poplar Avenue put through an easement in my yard. Those pipes were collapsing, they were cracked, tree roots had gotten in. I had both the water line, the stormwater line, and the sewer line. And my next door neighbor had 0 trees in their yard. And WSSC chose to come through my yard, trench 40 feet, and I have lost, I lost a 200-year-old white oak, and I lost 2 other oaks. And the last one fell over in a storm about 15 years ago. Anchor roots were cut.
Right, and that's exactly
so
why
I saw this in
Right.
horror.
Right.
I don't know. I
So
would have
yeah,
gone
and
with a
that's
grinder
exactly
pump
why
in a
we're
heartbeat.
trying to clear that 20-foot easement so that we won't have that issue.
My last comment is, how the heck are homeowners going to get to their homes between a water line digging in the front of their homes and this trenching and realignment in the back for almost a year, about a year? I'm just throwing the question out.
I mean,
Has
it would be
anyone
done.
thought
Yeah,
of
it would
the
be done in
logistics?
phases. It would be done in phases, and we would
Well,
maintain access to homes.
it's a
Okay, let's let
tricky-
someone else ask questions. Just keep it moving.
I'm Cindy Dibella. I'm with the Tacoma Parks Committee on the Environment, and I gave you some written comments. But the gist of it, both of these topics were in what we wrote. The first one is with regard both to the short-term stormwater impacts during construction and the long-term impacts. We also think that the WSSC really want to take another look at that. And provide the county and the city with the info on that they need to be able to assess that set of impacts.
Right.
The second, so I'm adding my voice to that whole group of people. I'm also adding my voice to the group of people that's coming up here and saying you might, given the cost of some of the mitigation that you're talking about and some of the jack and bore alternatives and some of the other things that are quite expensive, it might, understanding that you want to get this project done because no one wants raw sewage flowing downhill. But you might want to take another quick look at a couple of the alternatives that you discarded earlier. And I actually thought last Tuesday that WSSC had said that you would do that. So that's the committee's 2 comments.
Right,
And
right.
I'll-
Yeah, all of the alignments, I'm just going to say, all of the alignment alternatives that were brought up at Tuesday's meeting, we are going to be putting out a frequently asked questions document that addresses those other alignments that were brought up and why we rejected them. And I did get some data analysis from Wilson T. Ballard, so I can post those tables, I can post those numbers for you. And I'll be updating that alignment considerations report that's online to include those figures, so that you'll get more information about why we rejected those past alignments.
Okay,
And
thank you.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was just like, yeah. So, and then also, I just want to say, for the stormwater impacts, yes, we will complete or have an analysis actually completed by Wilson T. Ballard, or if we need to get another outside consultant, we will do that. Yeah, so we'll have that done. So, any other questions or comments about that, just for the sake of time? If you could save those, it's like I understand, I hear you, and we are going to get that done for you.
Yeah, and just to be clear, what we said was not give us the reasons why you rejected them a couple of years ago. What we said was you might want to take another look at them now, given the cost and impact of some of the main alternative that you're
Right.
pursuing.
Right. And I apologize if it came off in a different way, but yes, I did go back and I said, okay, well, why didn't we pursue this? Is there a chance this could work? And so, yeah, and so I did get more reasoning that would support rejecting the alignment. So that's why. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, hi, my name's Mike Tidwell. I live on Willow Avenue, so I don't live on Eastern or Westmoreland, but I live in Tacoma Park. I'm director of a group called the Chesapeake Climate Action Network. I think it's mandatory that this not happen, this clear cutting not happen until there is a hydrology study done. It sounds like you're saying this is going to happen, and oh yeah, we'll get a study done. But you've already made the decision. It seems to me you should make the decision after the hydrology study, not just the arborist's opinion, right? So have you made a decision on this?
So we've made a decision that
without a hydrology study.
We haven't had a hydrology study, and we've made a decision that we're going to stick with the backyard alignment. But the construction method, whether that be open cut or a jack and bore, we have not decided that yet. So as part of that management decision that I mentioned earlier, we are going to get that analysis done, and that will be part of the discussion.
So the other thing is, you said this would be a business decision, that the cost benefit. What analysis and what financial data do you have showing one approach versus another?
We have engineers' estimates.
So could you share that with the people who live in Tacoma Park?
Yes,
because we'd just like to see, if you're going to cut down all those trees, based on what financial decision, what is the data? Because I've lived in Tacoma Park for 27 years, and this is an environmental town, and it's also a town where we truly debate and we discuss, and you can't debate and discuss without data.
Right, exactly, and that's why I'm going to update that.
But you're saying you've
alignment
already made some decisions without key data.
We made decisions about the alignment itself, whether it's going to be in the front yard or the backyard, based on the homeowner votes. And that was based on, okay, if we go in the front yard, we're going to need to have grinder pumps. And so it was whether or not the homeowners along Eastern Avenue were going to be willing to take on the responsibility of grinder pumps in order to have it in the front.
So is it true that for $20-something per house per month, you guys could back up these grinder pumps? WSSC doesn't want to pay the $300 per month per house of this handful of houses. Per year, $300. So $20-something per month is too high for you guys. That financial data you're set on.
It's not even, no, it's not about that financial data.
First 10 years for free, and then after that, it's $20-something per house per month that you guys don't want to cover.
We're not doing it because of a certain cost that we're not willing to pay. It's because, according to the Maryland law, we're not allowed to maintain those grinder pumps.
So as someone who doesn't live on Westmoreland or Eastern, but who cares a lot about trees and the environment and process and fairness and justice, I saw the email that you guys sent out to the Eastern Avenue folks saying, hey, come to the meeting because, it seems like you've weighed the scale in terms of some citizens against others without data, without a hydrology study. And so I care about the trees, but I also, as a Tacoma Parker, I care about process. And I understand this needs to happen in a hurry, but as someone who doesn't live on either street, it just seems to me that this is really incomplete and also unfair so far. So that's just my view.
Okay, and everything that you mentioned, that's exactly why I'm going to update that alignment considerations report to include that data for everyone to see. So everybody will be able to do those debates with all of the complete data.
Can you pledge that you will not make a decision until we all have this data? That you won't? It sounds like you're saying you're going to go forward with certain scenarios.
We know that we're going to be in the backyard alignment, but we are still deciding which construction method we want to use.
Can you pledge that you won't clear cut those trees until this community has seen the financial data and the hydrology study?
Yes, definitely.
Great, thank you.
That's a given. Yes. Okay.
I'm Bill Brown. I live on Westmoreland. And I just want to assure everybody on Eastern Avenue that nobody on Westmoreland Avenue wants to force anybody to take a grinder pump. We understand your objections. We would have the same objections. Not a problem. We are trying to do our utmost to save 37 trees. That's the whole thing. We're in favor of the trees. It sounds like there are some solutions to that. I just want to go back to this. I realize you only had a week to put this, to answer these questions, but I just have to note that number 7, will there be a financial analysis of the alignment alternatives? And there is nothing specific. There's no, I mean, I was expecting like, cost of easements, cost of taking down a tree, cost of digging a ditch out in the front. I was expecting a much better breakdown. Just being told it'll be twice the cost.
Right. And as I said before, I'm going to update that
Okay.
alignment considerations report to include the actual table with all of the
That's important
breakdown.
before you go ahead with this, seems like
Well,
to me.
I mean, this is a handout for a meeting. I just didn't want it to be too long and detailed, but it will be
That's
online.
the data we're looking for.
Yes, and it will be available to you.
And the reason for the rejection of the gravity alignment, we've seen many reasons on many pieces of paper, and this is, as far as I believe, is a new one. And we filed a Freedom of Information Act request and got the papers on this, and we didn't see anything that backed any of these reasons up. I'm sorry, but it just seems kind of arbitrary, and there's actually some really scary language in there.
I'm sorry, which reasons are you talking about?
That you're saying that the reasons. The 6.7 and 17.9 feet deep trenches.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't made that available in the previous report because I didn't even have that.
I didn't see that, but it just seems like, and this scary language about sludge issues, smells, clogs, etc. I think that I really wanted to look at that option a little bit better and with some more creativity and a lot of effort. So I really wish you would go back and look at that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Crystal. I'm Carol Houghton. I'm chair of the Tacoma Park Tree Commission. And first, I would really like to express my appreciation for your and WSSC holding this hearing. And I really understand that you're between a rock and a hard place. And so I do sympathize with you. However, we, as members of the Tree Commission would like to express some general comments about this. We urge WSSC to consider all options for replacing the sewer line for homeowners along Little Eastern, including the possibility of a street alignment, a gravity street alignment on in the front yard, in order to minimize impact on trees and concomitant environmental damage. And we particularly want to underline the importance of making available a full environmental impact analysis to residents and the city of Tacoma Park that assesses all of the impacts and also takes into account the costs of the various options that are being considered for both water and sewer line replacement, before and not after the final design is determined. So basically, we're reiterating what many people have urged. And finally, we urge that the needs and desires of the homeowners on Westmoreland Avenue be considered in determining a final alignment, particularly because the proposed construction will potentially have highly detrimental effects on the stormwater, hydrology, and aesthetic aspects of their property. And I'd just like to enter this statement as well as an earlier statement that we prepared for the city of Tacoma Park.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So just want to enter that. I'd like to enter that into the record for this meeting. The longer statement was a statement that we gave to the city of Tacoma Park earlier. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Hi, I'm Patty Mallon. I live on Little Eastern. I have been coming to these meetings for at least 6 years. I don't remember when we started. But my husband, who's been dead for 4 years, came to several meetings, so at least 6 years. Prior to those 6 years, we had to replace the lateral from our house to the sewer line. The lateral is as old as the main line in the back, terracotta pipes. I have one of the specimen trees on Little Eastern. I have one of like the big historic oaks on Little Eastern. My plumber dug a trench down the backyard 6, 7, 8 years ago. That tree is great. He was careful. It can be done. We had to do that because raw sewage was backing up into my house. Okay? Crystal showed us pictures which look a lot like the pictures that we took of my lateral going from my house to the main line. And she said, we couldn't get the whole thing because it was blocked. That's what happened in my backyard years ago, and sewage backed up into my house. This is crucial. I don't want sewage backing up into my house, and I don't want it backing up and going downhill to your houses on Westmoreland either. I care about the trees. I have a historic tree in my yard. But I also care about raw sewage. I also care, the grinder pumps, we're talking about environmentalists, saying let's use a sewer option that is a drain on power as opposed to gravity. Gravity wins, okay? Gravity wins rather than depending on electricity to push the sewage uphill. It really does. Yes, it would be nice if it was all paid for. That might be a little bit of a consideration. I still would prefer gravity. Gravity always wins. You can count on gravity. You don't have to pay the bill on gravity. It's always going to be there. So I'm just saying, raw sewage wins over trees, and the trees can still be protected, at least most of them. They're going to do their best. City staff is here to help us. WSSC is doing their thing. We've got engineers. We've got neighbors who care that are going to watch out for those trees. Can we please move on? I don't want sewage in my house or yours. Thanks.
Nancy Glass again from Westmoreland Avenue. And just to follow up on Mike Tidwell's point, thank you so much for pledging not to make a decision on the financial decision about which construction method to use until you've reviewed and disclosed a hydrology study and also an environmental impact study. I assume that's the one the county is preparing that you're referring to?
So I'm actually referring to an outside one that we haven't even started yet.
Oh, okay.
It's just, it's like after the walk on Tuesday, I was just thinking, we might need an outside reviewer just to review the impacts. And yes, the comments today, it's like, yes, it's definitely going to happen. So that's what I was referring to. I know the county is doing an analysis of their own. I'm not sure about the details. Maybe Tommy knows.
Okay, great. Well, we'll look forward to getting that third-party analysis. But my question was just for clarity. Would the different methods potentially save the trees in the clear-cut area, or in the 20-foot easement for sure that's going to be clear-cut and it's only a matter of saving trees that abut the easement?
So a horizontal direction, not horizontal directional drilling. What's it called? Jack and bore method. It would save some trees within the easement that are on the back side of the property. Trees that are uphill, they probably will still need to be removed because we do need to dig that trench just to connect all the sewer laterals to the main line. We're not sure of how many we'll actually be able to save, and especially with the 6700 block, because we are going to need to have multiple pits just to do the jack and bore. We may be able to save a few. I'm not sure how many. I don't know. Does that answer your question?
So when you talk about the cost analysis, it's mostly for trees. For the most part, you're looking to save trees outside, but adjoining the easement. Is that what you're talking about? When you talk about the different construction methods and the benefit versus the cost of doing jack and bore technique, what are the trees that might be saved by that?
Okay, yeah. So the trees that might be saved are the trees that are on the back half of the easement, towards the rear of the Eastern Avenue properties, and the trees along Westmoreland. And the thing is, it's like another thing. So we might be able to save them from being removed completely, but we would still need to submit that 5-year plan that I was mentioning for a lot of the trees, just because their root zones are so large. So we would still be impacting some of them, but we would have to submit a 5-year protection plan for those trees.
Okay, that clarifies it. Thanks.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I'm Colleen Cordes with the Tree Commission, and thank you so much for having this hearing and for doing a fabulous job of facilitating and leading a very difficult meeting. I had a few questions. I just wanted to talk to you about the environmental impact assessment. Do you feel that WSSC has finished its environmental impact assessment? And no.
No. Well, the only impact assessment that we've had so far is Doug doing his preliminary identification of trees that would be removed out of our 20-foot easement and the trees that would be impacted along Westmoreland Avenue, which we still haven't finalized because we don't have the 100% plans yet. And some of the properties at the rear, we're going to have to install like new retaining walls because they have retaining walls there, and so we're going to have to take those out. And when we put in new ones, we don't know exactly yet from that design plan how many trees will be impacted. So we have a preliminary tree count. That's the only environmental assessment that we've really done. I mean, I've had Doug and Todd look into the change in runoff, and then they gave me their comments. But again, it wasn't a detailed analysis, and so we're not done with that portion.
Okay,
of
and
analysis.
so the the mayor and other elected officials in the county had asked WSSC to send information to the County Department of Environmental Protection so that it could do an environmental impact assessment.
Right.
Have you sent anything to them yet?
I've sent them the preliminary list from Doug and also his planned mitigation measures during construction to save the trees, like our tree protection standards that we have. Other than that, I've told the county that we will have the 100% plans completed at the end of August. And Dave Lake from the county, he mentioned that he could use those plans to complete his assessment. So I've let them know that the plans are coming.
Okay, and the analysis on the jack and bore versus the open cut installation, or no, I'm sorry, it was the roadway gravity sewer alignment. No, that's a different reason. I guess what I'm wondering is when you've done these different cost estimates, has Ballard included the cost of removing trees and the tree protection plans?
Yes, they included the cost for removing trees based on the preliminary list from Doug.
Okay, so that's included in the in comparisons.
Right.
Okay.
The only thing we haven't included yet is the temporary easements on the Westmoreland side.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's very helpful to know. And then the city engineer. This is more a question, I think, probably for Daryl and for the mayor. The tree commission had received emails from Daryl and from Suzanne saying that Todd would do a tree impact assessment, and the results would be shared with residents and with WSSC, and I assume with the tree commission because we had requested this. And also Suzanne, the city manager, said that the city engineer would try to take a look at the stormwater management issues. So my question is, what has happened to those assessments, and could they be made available to everyone concerned? Could they be made public? And then Suzanne also had said in her email that this information from Todd and from the city engineer, if he comes up with anything, would be sent to the County Department of Environmental Protection. That was on, I think, June 14th. So I'm asking what has happened to some sort of written report from Todd and, if possible, from the city engineer, and then could that be shared with everyone?
Oh, yeah, microphones. Or you can come up here if you like.
I'll let Daryl correct me if I'm wrong, but so Todd has been on the walkthrough with Doug at WSSC to look at the trees, but because we don't have the final list yet, we have not. Todd has not finished his report. So as soon as that is done, the report will be made available. It will be sent, and Tommy has an update on the DEP report, and he can talk about that. But as soon as that's available, we will make that available.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I understood. Are you saying as soon as they finalize their plan, Todd will finish his report?
Well, as soon as they provide us with the trees that they think will be impacted, we can do the report. Now, that's not, but there's still, as Crystal said on the her timeline here, there's still time after that, correct?
Right,
If you go back to the timeline, the final alignment or whatever is supposed to be done the end of August, but then there's also a period of time in here in which we're also looking at that final alignment.
Right, yeah.
And so there can be back and forth on that, and there will be with our arborist and what the impact is, and then, as they said, what the replacement's going to be.
So that sounds more like it's kind of managing the tree loss rather than being an environmental impact assessment, feeding into an environmental impact assessment that will be part of the decision about what's the best alignment plan. Is that right? That it really is more about, what will, how many trees?
It's not possible for us to do a report until we know which trees are going to be impacted. And we could have Todd write a memo now based on what we know, but it would not, I'm not sure that's going to help until we actually know. Crystal said there's 7 possible, worst case scenario, 7 possible trees. Todd could write a report on that, but I'm not sure until we know what that's going to do.
Yeah, well,
the other thing I just want to mention is that Ms. Braithwaite has mentioned is just to make sure everyone understands, our city engineer is not a specialist in stormwater. So that has hydrology, thank you. He knows stormwater. Right, he knows stormwater, hydrology, yeah. That's why I should stop talking and let Daryl talk. Now I'm out of my depth. But that's just also, we had talked about that he is not, that's not his specialty, our city engineer.
Okay, well, that's helpful because the most recent information that the Tree Commission had is that the city engineer would take a look at it, and if he came up with anything, he would share it with the Department
Right, and
of
that's exactly what we
Environmental
said. But we also said in the meeting, and I believe it is in the emails that were sent back to the Tree Commission, specifying that he is not a specialist in hydraulics, but he will definitely look at it.
And then that can be sent to, I guess I'm concerned obviously about the timing of all of this, but I just would like just to add that Doug Sievers was able to do a preliminary environmental impact assessment just on the trees. And so I would hope that Todd could do something based on the same information that Doug had, and that could be sooner rather than later and go to the Department of Environmental Protection. Thank you.
Todd and Doug, I think, are on the same page based on their walk last week. So whatever Doug has developed, I think Todd would agree with to the point that it's preliminary. Until we see final plans that show construction entrances, staging, techniques, whether it's going to be open cut or jack and bore, or if there's any options within that, there really is no way to make a final determination. Until we see final plans, Todd would, what the city arborist does is review construction plans and then tell people what their tree protection requirements are and what their tree removal requirements are. So until we see final plans, we wouldn't be able to make that decision. Same goes for the city engineer's review of the plan. He will happily look at the design drawings that Wilson T. Ballard will develop, and he will make any comments. But again, until we see construction plans, until we see depth of pipe, width of trench, access points, construction staging, you can't make any kind of comment other than kind of general comments. And I think we've already heard the general comments. So until we see final plans, we won't have anything formal from the city. Once we see the final plans, Todd can develop a report. The city engineer can develop a memo and provide it to the city manager and the council. But we wouldn't put those types of things together until we saw the final plans. If you'd like to see preliminary stuff, we can certainly develop it. But my guess is that Doug and Todd would have the same preliminary tree impact assessments based on their walk last week.
Can you come up to the microphone?
If the city is responsible for stormwater management, is there an expert in the city on stormwater management but not the city engineer?
If we felt like we needed an expert, we have 3 engineering firms that we contract with for development of engineering designs. Our city engineer oversees our stormwater management program, but what we're developing is stormwater management within the public right-of-way. So it's dealing with streets and curbs and impervious areas. We're also developing plans to meet the state and federal requirements for treatment of stormwater. So that is what he specializes in. In this case, where you have a natural setting on a grade with groundwater and other water table issues and a treed canopy, evaluating the removal of what sounded to me was 40-some trees and turning it to grass, that would be an analysis. He could probably make some general statements, but I think we'd want to see information from folks who have a specialty in hydrology, who know what the soil types are in this area, who've potentially even done boring to determine where the hard pan layer is, where the water is coming through. So those are the kind of things you'd want to see someone with a background in hydrology and soil science make those kind of statements. Otherwise, it's just kind of good science. I mean, a biologist can say a lot, engineer can say a lot, but if you're looking for definitive information, you'd want specialists in those fields.
Sure. Hello, I'm Tommy. I don't know if you haven't met me yet. I work for Councilmember Hans Reamer. And just to give you a little background, we asked, we've been working on this issue for a long time, as many of you probably recognize me. We asked for an environmental review by our County Department of Environmental Protection with the mayor, along with Senator Raskin. And I'm going to have to repeat a lot of what Daryl said, but in order to make a lot of these judgments on the environmental impact, Dave Lake, who's heading this up at our DEP, needs to see final plans. And so we actually got an email from the director, Lisa Felt, and if I could indulge you, I'm going to read that to give you an update of where the county's review is. And I know there's a lot of reviews going back and forth, but so here we are. So, Councilman Reamer, I want to take this opportunity to update you on the status of DEP's review of the water and sewer line replacement for residents along Eastern Avenue in Tacoma Park. In the past few weeks, we have received materials from WSSC related to their environmental review of the gravity sewer alignment in the backyards of the Eastern Avenue residents. The information sent to us on the tree impacts of the proposed open trench construction method are being reviewed by Laura Miller, the county's arborist. So now we have 3 arborists looking at this, which is good. We expect to have a review of the comments later this week. That's this week. Dave Lake, DEP's manager of Water and Wastewater Policy Group, has asked WSSC about alternative sewer construction techniques, such as horizontal directional drilling and similar techniques not requiring open trench excavation of the length of the sewer. We kind of touched on that, so don't need to go much further into that. WSSC is also, as Crystal mentioned, evaluating these techniques, and once that information is available from WSSC, DEP will be looking at that and then providing comments as well. So what I think is kind of important to realize is that there is this 4 to 5 week period after final design is where there can be some interchange, and so that's when the really in-depth review is going to be happening. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware that the county is also taking a really hard look at this.
Hi, everybody. I'm Andrea Pearson. I live at 6618 Westmoreland, right at the corner of First Avenue where that red dot is. My house faces First Avenue. And this is the least important issue that will come up tonight, but I want to talk about it and see, Crystal, what you have to say. And that is that I heard at a past meeting like this that First Ave is going to be used as the entrance point for the construction, which means that even if it's being produced in phases, if the trench is being dug in phases, that our street will be in sort of constant motion with things coming and going, heavy trucks and such. And so I want to say that if there's a way that kind of activity can be shared in the neighborhood, that would be terrific, because I work at home about half time, and this will be very disruptive, and that's, again, not an important thing in the long run, but I'm also worried about the condition of the road. Who's responsible if all this heavy machinery creates damage? Daryl, you mentioned curbs. Right now, my curb is sort of in pieces. It's blacktop, and I have to reassemble it every once in a while. So, I don't imagine that the machinery will do any of this any good. So I wanted to put in a pitch for finding a way to share that and to relate what the conditions are on that very short and very narrow street.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for your comments. Unfortunately, First Avenue is the only access point that we have for this construction. Yeah, unfortunately, that's the only access point that we have.
And who would be responsible for the road condition if that should change in this
Right.
process?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Do you want to come up, Brandon? Because maybe you have experience with this, actually. The customer advocate is coming up. All right, you can just.
Appreciate it. So, good evening, everyone. I'm Brandon Stewart, WSSC Customer Advocate. First off, I definitely want to let you know, as minor as you feel it is, every concern, every question is important, and we do take it seriously. Pretty much what you're talking about, the road conditions, is pretty much after the project has been completed, once we get to that point. And typically what happens is, Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is that we'll put in patch tickets to restore the roadway. Once construction has been completed, we currently have a contract with MT Laney. They're the WSSC paving contractor, so we will restore the streets in kind once the work's done. A lot of times in our line of work, a lot of people do benefit from it, because if the road conditions are kind of terrible before we get in there, they'll end up getting brand new roads out of it. So any roads outside of just First Ave, anything that's damaged as far as paving, things like that, we will restore once the project has been complete. I know Kevin and I have been working on the phase where we can try to stagnate it, so as the project reaches a tail end, we can start putting those tickets in to get some streets worked on. But nonetheless, we do take it seriously. So once the project's in the end phase, we'll begin identifying what areas need to be restored, taking measurements, and then we'll submit those to our paving contractor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jean Capps. I live at 6737 next door to Patty. A couple of things just for point of information, because a lot of people that are here that are here for something we do care a lot about, which is the environment and also the stormwater runoff. I'd just like to let you know, and if you haven't actually walked in our backyards, we'd welcome you to do that, and to give, when we're talking about environmental impact, because I did hear a number of people concerned about stormwater runoff. At the back of our property, there is a drop-off, and it is on a number of them. They talked about retaining walls, and a number of us have worried about the weight of the construction equipment on the ground once you start taking out the roots and everything that are holding it together. I am concerned about the house that's downhill from us. I think that house is rented now, so I doubt if the property owner is here. They have trees on the other side, so when that construction is going on, if that retaining wall is destabilized, we don't have any valuable trees that are going to be impacted there. The house behind us on Westmoreland, I believe, does, but then there's also the dirt and one of the reasons they put those retaining walls there is originally those properties were only the Eastern Avenue properties. The Westmoreland houses didn't exist. They were built later. This is a grandfathered in system that the WSSC did not create. It's a mess. I mean, trying to do everything right. We want as many of the trees protected as possible. We do not want a whole lot of dirt and sludge coming downhill to the Westmoreland houses either. So it's complicated. It's more than just the trees. Some as you get down closer to First Avenue, I mean, it's almost like a cliff. And the only thing that I see holding that dirt back on our side of on the Eastern Avenue side are these retaining walls that were probably built somewhere between 80 and 100 years ago. So I think you have to look at the whole picture. We're totally committed to getting our sewers replaced, but I would like to reiterate, we have asked for these cost estimates that someone asked about a little while ago from the beginning. We have asked to see the spreadsheets and see it all costed out. We might look at it and say, oh, yeah, that's way too expensive. We have never received it, long before Crystal was working there, so I'm not putting her on the spot. We have asked over and over and over again. You tell us it's too expensive, show us on a piece of paper it's too expensive, what's really involved. You say it's too complicated. We'd like to have it in the street on Eastern Avenue. This explanation was not the explanation that was given. They said it would destabilize the wall on Big Eastern, which is owned by the District of Columbia, and it would all collapse in some big dangerous mess. We have never actually seen that in writing ever. Okay, I can't imagine, how does New York City do it when they have high rises, when they have to replace the sewer? I mean, there are,
you may be right. I mean, you being the WSSC, but we've never seen the details. And we've been working at it, as Patty said, for over 6 years. So we're on your side. We want to work with you, but we're kind of operating blind.
Yeah, thanks, Patty. Yeah, and that's why I'm going to update that report too. Yeah. Okay. Are there any other questions? Can you ask on the microphone? I don't know if people online will be able to hear the questions. The question is, what are the red dots on this board? Yes, those are proposed fire hydrants. Yes. Thank you.
So I'm also not a hydrologist, but I'm wondering if it would make any sense to have a before and after study done on the properties on Westmoreland. Start collecting data now on what the stormwater runoff is. Is that, I mean, would hydrologists do that? Is that even something they do?
I'm assuming that they would do a before and after for both Eastern Avenue and Westmoreland, because that Westmoreland is who's going to be impacted because the stormwater is all running downhill. So of course, the Westmoreland Avenue houses would be part of that analysis.
So, Crystal, I'm at 6604 Westmoreland, and for those of you who have been on the tour of the trees, this is not just a theoretical issue we're concerned about. My house, the back foundation wall collapsed about 6 years after I moved into the house because of the water table down there. The water table is 18 inches below the surface of the ground, and I get 200 gallons of water an hour that drain away from my house from a cistern system that I had to put in, an external system to protect. Well, I just wanted to speak to these folks who are obviously frustrated because of the number of years you all have spent working on this and the concerns you have about raw sewage in your basement. But I think it's not only just we love trees. It's that this is a real threat. The amount of water that's on Lower Westmoreland. Again, 200 gallons of water an hour come out of my cistern. And I've had to replace the internal French drains in my house 3 times since I've lived there because of the water table. I've lived there 30 years. And luckily, I moved into Tacoma Park when it was still cheap, so I can more or less afford to do this. But and the concern about the roots being disturbed, these trees, we get a mitigation plan for 5 years, but when they fall on your house 7 years from now, WSSC isn't responsible. I mean, I think it's something it's a safety issue for the people on Lower Westmoreland.
Okay. Any other questions or? Okay. Well, yeah. We have the space until 9 o'clock, so I'll stay around if you guys want to talk or ask any more questions or give your comments. But yeah, the meeting, I guess, is closed for tonight. Thank you all for coming, and I have Wilson T. Ballard writing down all of your questions and my responses, and I'll have the transcript on the website after, probably tomorrow evening. Yeah. And, yeah.